Hey there everyone, what's up? I am here today to talk about another game here. And this one of the few Wii U games that I was still excited about. We've got, this is Rei, also known as Fatal Frame 5. This is, the Japanese name is, what is it? Rei Nurigarasu no Miko, which is like, um, I don't even know. It's weird because it's like the wet raven or something. It's like not. It makes sense in the story, but it does. It's a terrible title in English. Um, Whatever. It's not important. Fatal Frame 5. Just remember that. So this is essentially, the newest Fatal Frame game on the Wii U, and yeah, if you don't know about Fatal Frame, it's essentially a ghost hunting game. Um, you use a camera that it's called the camera obscura in English. I don't. That's what they're calling it, at least. And so you use it, and when you take photos of the ghosts, they take damage. So yeah, that's essentially the basic way you fight in the game, taking pictures. So as you can imagine, if you've played any of the previous games, you kind of know how it works. You move the camera, you put the camera up to your eye, and you have like a little box, and the creatures have like, well, they're all ghosts. They're not really creatures, but they all have like areas on them that take damage, and if you fit them all on the shot, you can cause bigger damage. And as you hit them, sometimes little soul pieces or whatever fly out, and you can get bigger combos to do more damage. So that's pretty much how it works, and this game is no exception. It works the exact same way, except this one, as you can imagine, uses the Wii U controller in I want to say good ways, but it's kind of mixed because like a lot of the times the Wii U controller was a horrible hindrance, and sometimes it was really good. I won't talk about that now. Just talk about the basics of the game, and then I'll get into the controls later. But anyway, this game ends up being pretty interesting because it has multiple characters to use. You start out using one character, and eventually you'll start switching between some other characters, and it's almost like it's a little bit of a cop out, the other characters, though, because for example, there's three girls you can use and one guy. And the girls all share one camera, but the guy has a different camera, and the way his camera works is actually different. So you'll find that he has like, for example, the girl's camera has like a single shot kind of special attack that you can use, whereas the guy's has like this like multiple shot special attack where it'll just constantly keep taking pictures during the special attack. And since there's essentially four people you can use, it seems like it would have been better if they all had a different camera, so they could have had different special attacks for everybody. So like playing with the other characters actually felt like playing with other characters, because you kind of end up with three characters that are essentially the same, and then one character that's different. It's kind of like a missed opportunity there. I mean, not that it's bad. I mean, I don't mind because the system is good and the game is fun. But yeah, you do kind of end up wishing that they had put a little bit more effort into the making the characters more differentiated. But speaking of that, the characters in this game they're all pretty good, except this is the main complaint everybody is having in Japan about this game, and that it's a reasonable complaint. It's like this game is ostensibly a horror game, but it's everybody is so hot. So that's the thing. It's just like all the girls are like really sexy, and they have like this kind of system in the game. It has to do with water being everything getting wet. So you can imagine like girls in their kind of frilly clothing get wet, and it's just like sticks to their body or whatever. It's totally like equal parts sexy and scary. So like it's a little distracting if you're really into the game for the horror element, because like you'll play and you'll find that like all the characters are like super attractive, but then like the ghosts, half of the ghosts are attractive too. So it's like, okay, they're kind of horrific, but you know, I probably wouldn't kick them out of bed even if they're a ghost. So it's the kind of thing where like it's a little distracting from the kind of horror element of the game, which I guess is probably it's one of the main things people have been complaining about with the game, and yeah, I can see it. I mean, it didn't take away from my enjoyment of the game because I'm not like I'm not like your kind of screaming spastic kind of person when I'm playing these horror games. I just like the setting of it and I like the idea of it, so I like horror. I don't play it to be scared, so and I wouldn't be scared even if they weren't like all incredibly hot ghosts or whatever. But it's the kind of thing where I think a lot of people do play it for that reason, and if you are playing it to be scared, you're probably not going to be, at least by the characters. The settings, on the other hand, are really nice. I mean, they repeat a lot. Each there you're kind of playing in this one area that's like a mountain, and it's like a suicide mountain, which is the actual thing in Japan. There's like mountains where people go to hang themselves or whatever, or kill themselves. And this is like one of those types of things. But you go there and you'll find that like you go to the areas, and some areas are kind of blocked off, or you won't go there because it's not part of the area you're supposed to be searching. And you'll find like you kind of revisit the same like 5 or 6 areas throughout the entire game. And sometimes you're going in different sections of those areas, and sometimes you're just kind of overlapping where you've been already. So, but the all the areas are creepy looking, and they kind of give a nice tension, but they all the color scheme is pretty much the same for everything, and it's always ranging between creepy abandoned building, creepy woods, creepy tunnel, creepy temple. That's pretty much it. You have also a kind of beach. That's about it though. That's all you've got for areas, and some of them are big, so it's not really an issue. It's just like don't expect a ton of variety. But it's not really necessary. I didn't feel like, oh, I'm back to this place again when I was playing, and I just felt like, oh, okay, I'm in the woods again. It's not. It wasn't terrible. So I did enjoy the settings, even though they're not incredibly varied. Sometimes you'll find in like inside the temples and things like the color schemes get really nice. You'll get some like really red areas, or some like instead of the kind of grayish blue that's prevalent in most of the areas otherwise. And another like what I was talking about with the title is that it's called like the kind of shrine maidens of the wet raven or whatever. But the wet part is a huge part of this game because, like I said, there is like a kind of wetness, and if you take a damage from ghosts, you get like this kind of wetness meter fills up, and your clothes get wet. And if you're wet, the ghosts become stronger, and you have more a chance of being attacked. More kind of random encounters will show up, or you'll get like usually there's items lying around, and you have to, what I like about Fatal Frame is the kind of, it gives you this tension when you're opening doors or picking up items, because you have to like press a button and it'll slowly reach out to grab it. And sometimes like from off the screen, it'll be like, here I am reaching, and then it'll be like, wow, some ghost hand will come out and grab you. But if you're wet, it's more likely that those ghost hands will start coming out. Or if you're not wet, it's pretty unlikely that they will come out at all. So like, it's beneficial to you to stay dry, even though it's not possible in a lot of cases because it's raining outside or something. But it's another element to think about in the game while you're playing. You can also kind of think about the story is actually pretty interesting. It is about like the kind of curse on this mountain where people are kind of drawn to when they're ready to die or to kill themselves. I enjoyed the story actually. one of the flaws with it though is that it involves to get a lot of out of the story. It involves like way more reading than you'd expect. You find a lot of kind of diaries and things lying around, research manuals and things lying around. And you get a lot of the backstory from those. And I don't mind the reading. It's not like a horrible thing, but like if you don't read it, like if you're just lazy and you feel like I don't want to read all this stuff, you'll kind of miss a lot of the main story of like what's happening. And I think that that might, put some people off if you're like one of these people who can't stand reading for some reason. But like I said, I enjoyed those parts. I just think like some people probably won't. I enjoyed the stories actually. You get like these kind of weird backstories for characters who are tangentially in the game, which is interesting, and you'll get like this backstory on like what's happening with all the other enemies and things. So it's pretty interesting. Another thing you'll get also is these kind of something called a fatal glance, or in this case, it's fatal grants because it's spelled wrong. But after you kill an enemy, there's like a brief period where you can run up and touch their dying soul, and you can kind of get a vision of how they died. And it's pretty cool actually because it shows up like these kind of grainy found footage things when you touch the ghost. So you'll get these like it looks like a 1920s film or something, and you'll touch the ghost and it'll flash to this kind of super grainy film, and it's usually black and white, but sometimes it's color, but mostly it's black and white. And you'll see like sometimes it's just like your random enemy, and you'll see like how did this person get on the mountain and die. And there's a lot of interesting ones. There's just like somebody got lost on a school trip or something, or like somebody gets like is there hunting for is like an amateur ghost hunter or whatever and actually gets killed by ghosts. There's stuff like that. It's like a lot of interesting things just for the regular enemies that have like no real story normally. And you'll get like deeper into the like recurring major enemies too by touching them that way. So there is a lot. That's a pretty cool element of this game. But what I wanted to talk about was the controls, because I think a lot of people are probably interested in how is the Wii U used in this. Thankfully, it's not exactly the way I thought it was going to be. You know how, if you've ever played Zombie U, which I might have talked about on this channel, I might not have, but Zombie U has this thing where you have to scan areas and you have to like hold up the controller and move it around the screen to kind of notice things. And I was worried that this game was going to have that kind of control. Thankfully, it's not exactly like that, so you don't have to, move the Wii U controller around the screen to use it at like the camera. You kind of you don't necessarily have to even move it at all to move the camera. You can just use the Switch and then kind of do some other stuff with it. There's an actual setting in the menu to not have to use the Wii U controller to like move it like this. But I found that actually it's better to use the Wii U controller like that, because since it doesn't have to be held up on the screen, and since you're constantly using the controller, you have to it's actually almost better to like just use the tilt to control the camera in many cases. So I tried both ways, and I found that the Wii U controller method is better. And the problem with that is that if you don't like that Wii U controller, like actually moving the camera thing, it sucks because even if you switch it off, you still have to move the controller around like rotationally, no matter what, even if you turn off the tilt with the camera. So like, because unlike the other game, you can, instead of like just taking a kind of landscape photo, you can take vertical shots. So when you take a vertical shot to get a better kind of view, more kind of damage to an enemy, you can select more areas of it. You have to like actually flip the Wii U controller sideways, and that was always awful, no matter what, because you're holding the thing this awkward way, and like your hands have to shift, and then you're trying to control the movement, and when you're controlling the camera like this or moving your character with the sticks, your hands are shifted, but the controller is shifted, 45 degrees or 90 degrees or whatever. Yeah, 90 degrees. And you find that like your controls are weird because like you're holding it sort of like a normal controller, but the control is 90 degrees off. So like you'll be like trying to go down and it'll be going left or something. And it's it's so every time you're doing that, no matter what controller setting, you have to kind of flip the controller like that. And it was that was like the worst part, I thought, like having that. I mean, it's like a cool feature to be able to move the frame around like that, but the control is so weird when you're doing it that it was like more of a hindrance than anything when you had to do it against certain bosses or whatever. So there's that. Another thing with the controls was that it's the camera itself, when you use it, if you just wanted to use the screen, like you don't get the same prompts as you do on the actual camera. So like if you turn on the camera, like you figure, well, I don't want to really look at the Wii U controller all that much. I'll just use the screen. And the frame actually shows up on the screen, except like the circles that show up to show if you're actually attacking the enemy or not don't show up on the screen. They only show up on the controller. So you'll find that like when you're playing, you have to always constantly look at the screen, or and then like when a battle comes, like you're almost constantly using the Wii U controller. It's like almost useless to have the screen at all, except for like when you're walking randomly and you want to use the map, because none of the prompts show up that you would use for like knowing if there's ghosts to take pictures of or knowing if there's items around. They don't show up on the screen. They only show up on the controller. So you're constantly looking at the controller, except in certain cases. And it seems like a kind of a waste of a situation because like you can't really always use the controller because the field of view is smaller than the actual screen. So if you flip on the camera and you're just like, I'll just use the controller the whole time, well, your field of view is much smaller than if you were looking at the screen and had just the viewfinder on there. So sometimes you'll find it's really hard to only use the controller, even though, like essentially you have to. So you're constantly like fighting, but you're also like looking between two screens, and like it gets hectic in a bad way because like you kind of lose track of what's going on. So be that and the controller flipping were like the two worst parts of it, being using the Wii U controller. But other than that, I liked it. I think like the tilting part of it and using the camera in the way you're using it is good. I just think like the tilting part and the kind of disconnect between the two screens was not so hot. So yeah, uh, okay. After you beat the game, there are multiple endings, and I mistakenly got I like by accident got the good ending, and um, I did. I what happened was I got the good ending on my first try, and then I like was like, oh, I think I can get a better ranking if I play through it again. You get a like after you clear a stage, you get like better rankings, and I was like, well, that wasn't so bad. And I think like if I didn't use a lot of items, I could get a better ranking. So I played through it again and I did better, but like I got the bad ending because like it turns out that like there's like this kind of arbitrary way to get the good and bad ending. And I guess like it does tell you, it gives you the hints of what you should be doing in the, like I said, if you read the manual things that you find. But if you don't, it seems like I don't understand why I'm getting a good ending or why I'm getting a bad ending if you didn't read that stuff. And it's the kind of thing where like if you were playing the game and you weren't like closely reading that stuff, you would probably be confused as to why you got a good or bad ending. But anyway, after you beat the game, you get bonus missions with Ayane from Dead or Alive, and those were interesting actually. I didn't incredibly enjoy them. They're really short. I mean, you can just get through it in like a half hour maybe for all of them. But essentially, you don't have a camera, so you can't attack so much. You can't kill any ghosts. So it ends up being a kind of stealth game where like you have this item that allows you to stun the ghosts, but you can't kill them. So you have to sneak around and stun the ghosts to walk by and then keep running as Ayane. And it's a it's different, at least. It's not anything like the other way that the other characters work, and it does kind of add a new element to the game. I'm not a huge stealth fan though, so I didn't really think it was better, but it was different, and that was like what I was hoping for with the other characters in the actual game. But yeah, I guess it's kind of like a bonus. And after you win, you'll unlock a bunch of even sexier costumes for the characters. Like, um, why are they running around abandoned buildings in like a negligee or whatever, or like a bathing suit? I don't know, but it's kind of like the other games did that too. It's not like there weren't bathing suits and stuff like that in the previous games. So I mean, it is the kind of thing that a lot of people didn't like, and I wasn't horrified by it or anything, but I could see why people would not like that in their horror game because it does take away a bit from the horror. But yeah, that's about it for Fatal Frame 5. I believe somebody was asking me questions on Facebook about this, a bunch of people. But would I say it's worth buying a Wii U for? No. But if you have a Wii U and you want, a game that's actually a game at all, I guess, or a game that's fun to play, this one is it. It's fun. I enjoyed playing it. Let me probably took. It didn't take as long as I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be a lot longer, but by the percentages of the game, but it actually turns out that the clear percentage is you have to play through the game twice and one on like the hard difficulty to get it to 100%. So it took maybe I don't know 15 hours to beat, maybe 16 with the bonus missions at the end. That seems about right. So it's not like an incredibly short game, but it's not incredibly long either. It didn't overstay its welcome at all. So if you're looking for a kind of interesting horror game, hopefully this will get localized somewhere. I don't think it's going to. They didn't they don't seem like very you know positive on that. Everyone who asks keeps getting the it's only for Japan. So who knows? But it is a good game, and it is something I think like Wii U owners should have, which means I hope it gets localized only because like the Wii U needs games everywhere, not just not just here. But this type of game is the kind of thing that I think Wii U owners would enjoy beyond their standard Wii experience, which is essentially Nintendo only titles. But a non-Nintendo title that's good, it's pretty rare on the Wii U at this point because you know there's not a lot of stuff. And this one, yeah, it's a good game. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's got its flaws, but it was worth playing, and I'm glad I bought it. So hope that helps you guys if you're interested in Fatal Frame 5. Yeah, that's about it. So I guess I will see you guys next time.